The man at the pool of Bethesda, John 5, 1 through 20. The other one that was odd was the man with the hand, and we'll talk about that in a second, and then the man that was born blind, which is the one we talked about last time. Both of those, the man that was born blind and this one, are in John's gospel. And I don't know if you noticed or not, John is different from the other three. They say that like 80% of the stuff that's written in John is not written in the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's a different, he's got a different approach. He's got a different mindset. He's got a different intent in his writing. So it stands to reason to me that two of these odd ones, if you want to call them that, are in John's gospel, which is the different gospel than the rest of them, the majority, which are written in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I always want to add John in there and it doesn't fit. Anyway, the man at the pool of Bethesda, John 5. Here we go. Then Jesus returned to Jerusalem to observe one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, there's a pool called in Aramaic, the house of loving kindness. The house of loving kindness. And this pool is surrounded by 5 covered porches. Hundreds of sick people were lying there on the porches, the paralyzed, the blind, and the crippled, all of them waiting for their healing. For an angel of God would periodically descend into the pool to stir the waters, and the first one who stepped into the pool after the waters swirled would be instantly healed. Now there was a man who had been disabled for 38 years, lying among the multitude of the sick. When Jesus saw him lying there, he knew that the man had been crippled for a long time. So Jesus said to him, "Do you truly long to be healed?" That's kind of an interesting question. He sees the guy sitting there. It doesn't say how long he's been there, but he's had this problem for 38 years. And Jesus looks at him, and his first comment is, "Do you want to be healed?" We'll unpack that a little more later, but that's an interesting question for somebody in that situation to be asked, and an interesting question for Jesus looking at that situation to ask him. The sick man answered, "Sir, there's no way I can get healed, for I have no one who will lower me into the water when the angel comes. As soon as I try to crawl to the edge of the pool, someone else jumps in ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Stand up, pick up your sleeping mat, and you will walk." Immediately he stood up, he was healed. He rolled up his mat and walked again. Now this miracle took place on the Jewish Sabbath. Here we go with the Sabbath again. How many of these miracles were done on the Sabbath? It's almost like Jesus has a point. I'm intentionally going to do this on the Sabbath day just to ruffle feathers, even though it would have been easier for him not to have done that. It would have been less troublesome, less problematic for him to just wait one day or to do it one day earlier. But what he's doing over and over and over and over again, you see this stuff on the Sabbath, what's he doing? He's tearing down that sacred cow. He's intentionally addressing that particular thing that they had gotten wrong over the course of these years where they've added stuff to it. Sometimes our theology needs to be messed up. Sometimes it needs to be dealt with because we're wrong and we didn't realize it. When the Jewish leaders saw the man walking along carrying his sleeping mat, they objected and said, "What are you doing carrying that? Don't you know it's the Sabbath? It's not lawful for you to carry things on the Sabbath." Offended and bent out of shape just because their rule got broken, not even caring about the fact, hey, I was just healed and I'm going home. Religious people can be mean. He answered them, "The man who healed me told me to pick it up and walk." "What man?" they asked him. "Who is this man who ordered you to carry something on the Sabbath?" But the healed man couldn't give them an answer, for he didn't yet know who it was, since Jesus had already slipped away into the crowd. A short time later, Jesus found the man at the temple and said to him, "Look at you now, you're healed. Walk away from your sin so that nothing worse will happen to you." Then the man went to the Jewish leaders to inform them, "It was Jesus who healed me." So from that day forward, the Jewish leaders began to persecute Jesus because of the things he did on the Sabbath. Jesus answered his critics by saying, "Every day my Father is at work, and I will be too." This infuriated them and made them all the more eager to devise a plan to kill him. For not only did he break their Sabbath rules, but he called God my Father, which made him equal to God. So Jesus said, I speak to you timeless truth. The Son is not able to do anything from himself or through my own initiative. I only do the works that I see the Father doing, for the Son does the same works as his Father. Because the Father loves the Son so much, he always reveals to me everything that he is about to do. You will all be amazed when he shows me even greater works than what you have seen so far. Good story. Let's break this down just a little bit and talk about some things that we can possibly gather from it. Verse 2. There is in Jerusalem a pool near the sheep gate. This pool in the Hebrew is called Bethesda, having 5 porches, alcoves, colonnades, doorways. Other translations of that say like covered walkways. It was near the sheep gate. Now, what is the sheep gate? The sheep gate was the gate through which the sacrificial animals entered the temple before they were about to be killed. So they brought these sacrifices in through this particular gate into the temple before the sacrifices were about to be sacrificed. We've already read that Bethesda means house of mercy, and it also means house of kindness. That's a pretty good place to hang out. The house of mercy, the house of kindness. That might explain what's going on there when that angel stirred the water season after season, time after time. Now, the people, scholars who tries to investigate this, had a real problem with the 5 porches because they found a pool when they went to dig this thing up that they thought was the right pool, but it only had 4 sides. So where'd the 5th porch come from? Well, what they didn't realize is there were 2 pools right next to each other. I'll show you some pictures in just a second. And the dividing wall between the 2 pools was the 5th wall, the 5th porch. And part of the pool had been covered over. They built buildings over the top of it, so they didn't find it at the beginning. Anyway, let's see kind of a model of what this thing looks like, perceived to look like. The pool on the left, the lower pool, you can see one full side and then the 2 sides connecting to the other ones. If you extended those out, those would be the 4 sides, and then the 5th one down the center. You see the 2 different pools there put together.
Those buildings or pools are the outside?
The pools are in the middle of the red squares. And the porches are the red squares. They're covered patio areas down the sides of the pools. And they're getting the 5 by the one on the top that split at height midway through, the one at the bottom that split in height midway through, one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle. 5. Okay, here's a video of what this site looks like today. See how deep it was? And then, like I said, they built other buildings over the top of it. So these are like support structures for those buildings over the top.
So down those stairs would be the bottom?
Would be one of the pools, yes. I'm not sure which part this is. I kind of lost my perspective as I was looking at this. I couldn't relate that to the picture. I'm sure if you were actually there in person, it would make more sense. And then it doesn't help me either that you got all these towers to support structures when they built things over the top of the pool. And I don't know why they would do that, but apparently they did. I don't know if they were trying to make a monument out of this historical pool, or if they were out of land, or if they just thought, hey, it'd be a great idea to build on top of the pool. Wow. Oh, whatever. I don't know why. I don't know the reasons for all that. It wasn't really what I was focusing on here. Some have suggested that the 5 porches represented the 5 books of Moses in the law. The law contained a provision for healing, but only a few people enjoyed it, mostly only after a special occurrence. The people say that Jesus came into that system to change it. My issue with that whole thinking is Jesus didn't heal everyone that day. It was still a special thing for this one guy. So if you were trying to illustrate that Jesus came and did something different than what the law illustrated, I would have figured that everybody would have been healed that day, because now it's not required that you wait on the special thing. So I'm not really sure I agree with that whole thinking, but it's kind of an interesting idea. What it really speaks to me is that this whole group of people, all these people waiting for their healing that day, were woefully ignorant about the fact that they had a healing covenant with God already. They weren't acting on their healing covenant. What were they doing? Waiting, hoping, wishing that one day they would be the first ones in the pool when the angel stirred the water. Waiting on God to do something special when he had already declared himself by covenant to be their healer if they would just act on it. Okay, so now we kind of know where we're at and what we're talking about and what's going on there. Let's get into the story a little bit. Chapter 5, 3 through 4. Under these arches, a great many sick people were in the habit of lying. Some of them were blind, some lame, some had withered limbs. They used to wait there for the moving of the water, for at a certain times the angel used to come down into the pool and disturb the water. Then the first person who stepped into the water after the disturbance would be healed of whatever he was suffering from. Sometimes God will do a special thing for a few to let everyone else know what is available by faith. Why would he do signs and wonders? What's the point of signs and wonders? It's a sign. It's a wonder. It makes you, how did God do that? Wow, oh, that's awesome. Or they point in a certain direction. You see a sign down the highway. What's that sign there for? To point you to where you're going, to tell you what's about to happen, to give you direction, to give you information. So from God's perspective, a sign and a wonder is just that, to show people who may have gotten messed up, may have gotten deceived, may have totally negated all the healing promises in Scripture, all that stuff, to show them, yes, I am still God, I am still healing, I am still doing this today. All of this is available to you if you approve it and approach it and appropriate it by your faith. Okay? We ought to have both. We ought to have both the special things and people regularly being healed by their own faith. We ought to expect both. We ought to have an atmosphere that's conducive to both. Not one or the other, both. Special things and people just tapping in by their faith and getting their healing. All these people were waiting on the moving of the water. They were waiting on something special. I don't know how long this had been going on, but I don't get the sense that it just started. I read that it had been happening for a while. They developed this habit. They developed this pattern. They developed this tradition associated with it. How long had some of these people been waiting for their special thing? How long had this man been waiting for his special thing? We don't know. The Bible doesn't say. But I have reason to believe that it wasn't a couple of weeks, that it was months, that it might have been years. It might have even been decades that he was waiting for his special thing from God. You can die waiting on something special. You can waste years or decades waiting on something special. And the point is, yes, God sometimes does special things, but you don't have to wait on that special thing. God made it accessible to all of us. Think about people that are not born again. Can they say that they're waiting on the Lord to save them, to get them to the state where they're born again? Or could they, whenever they choose, go to God and receive forgiveness of their sin and be born again? Are they actually waiting on God? They're not. He's already done everything that he's going to do about that. The same is true with healing. Healing is a component of the salvation. He's done everything he's going to do. He's made it available to us. He's waiting on us to step into it, to walk in it. The price has already been paid for both healing and being born again. It is available, both of them, at any time. In this case, the angel stirred the water somehow. The first person in the pool was healed of whatever ailed them. How did that person get healed? Getting in the pool, okay? I think that angel hung around. After the angel jumped in or put his foot in the water or however he stirred the water, I think he hung around and he just touched whoever was the first one in of whatever they had. Are angels involved in healing ministry? I believe they are. We're going to talk about that. Daniel 10, 18 and 19. Daniel 10, 18 and 19. Then one that looked like a man touched me again. I felt my strength returning. Don't be afraid, he said, for you are very precious to God. Peace, be encouraged, be strong. As he spoke these words to me, I suddenly felt stronger and said to him, please speak to me, my Lord, for you have strengthened me. Did this person, this form, the one that looked like a man, other versions say angel, have something to do with Daniel receiving strength? Yes. Okay. Matthew 4, verse 11. Matthew 4, verse 11. Then the devil left him, and angels came and ministered to him, bringing him food and serving him. The devil left him, and angels came and took care of him. The devil left Jesus, and angels came to help him. The devil left him, then angels came and served him. So what's going on? Jesus is had just gone through 40 days of fasting, 40 days without food, 40 days without water, all the testing in the wilderness. And once all that is finished, the devil leaves, and what happens? An angel shows up to minister to him, to strengthen him, to encourage him, to serve him, to even feed him food. I don't know where they got that food or what that food was, but that's kind of cool that the angel's bringing you dinner. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're used in the ministry of healing, but when God sends them on assignment. Luke 22, 42 through 44. He said, Father, if you will, take this cup from me, but do not do what I want, but what you want. Then an angel came to him from heaven and helped him to make him strong. His heart was troubled very much, so he talked with God more than before. His sweat was like big drops of blood falling on the ground. So what's going on here? Jesus is in the garden about to go to the cross, and all the weight of this thing finally starts coming upon him. He starts realizing all of the things that he's about to go through spiritually, physically, and all the other dimensions. And it's a serious thing. It's a very, very grave matter that he's going through right now. And an angel comes to strengthen him. An angel comes to assist him. Are angels involved, to at least some extent, in healing? I believe they are. Hebrews 1, 13 and 14. Hebrews 1, 13 and 14. Did God ever say to an angel, as he does to his son, sit here beside me in honor until I crush all your enemies beneath your feet? No, for the angels are only spirit messengers sent out to help and care for those who are to receive his salvation. To help and care for those who are to receive his salvation. Should it surprise us that angels get involved in healing? I didn't say they're the healer. I said they get involved in the process. And what do I mean by that? Well, I dare say that angels walk up and down aisles in churches on assignment. Are we willing to receive whatever they've got to bring? Are we willing to participate, to acknowledge in whatever they've got to bring? Now, I'm not saying we're going to worship them. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We're not even supposed to pray to them or for them. Don't go seeking one. Don't go trying to find one. And we'll talk about that in just a second. The reasons that we shouldn't do that. But are they there? Yes. My whole point in saying this is it makes sense biblically that this angel would occasionally jump into this pool, stir the waters for the point of healing the first person in. God showing a sign, God doing a special thing where healing was concerned. In John 1:51, you can read it for yourselves, Jesus said to Nathanael that he would see angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. So what does that tell us? Angels go back and forth between heaven and earth. Back and forth. What do back and forth? They deliver messages and heavenly products. Messages and heavenly products. They fight spiritual. That's something else they do. And that's more in the heavenly realm than in the earth. But when they visit earth, what are they doing? Sometimes they're protecting. Sometimes they're involved in the ministry for the saints. But they're also bringing messages. They're also bringing heavenly products. I heard about a guy who was in the hospital dying of congestive heart failure. He finally got off to sleep one night, and he woke up in the middle of that night that he finally got to sleep with a man standing next to him, and this man had his hands in his chest. And he looked at that and he go, whoa. But he wasn't scared. It didn't freak him out. It didn't mess him up. And the guy said, just go back to sleep. It'll all be okay. And he did. He went right back to sleep. Now, I don't know if I could have gone back to sleep with a guy standing next to my bed and his hands are in my chest. At the very least, yes. But the guy did. He went back to sleep and he woke up the next morning with a brand new heart. So what happened? God healed him, yes. In this particular case, what mechanism did he use to heal him? That angel brought a new heart and installed it in that dude's chest. Awesome. Praise God. He can do it however he wants to do it. All I'm trying to get us aware of is sometimes he can use angels to assist with heavenly delivery of products and heavenly ministry. Go ahead.
Well, it's obvious in this case that we know it would be useless for them to get into the pool until the angel came.
I would think that would be a rule. Otherwise, that would. I don't know if it was on a regular schedule where they could predict when it was going to happen, or if it was at random.
Yeah, and so going back to this, they just couldn't decide, okay, to get into the pool. They had to wait for the move of God. They had to wait until the initiated. I'm not sure that can still come now with the move of the Holy Spirit, because operates for the flesh, it is the same thing.
Right. Right.
Now, this just kind of, I always think that everything we do, that God initiates it, and we have to choose to respond to it. I don't think we can decide on our own. I'm going to be healed today.
You can't decide I'm going to be healed today. You can decide I'm going to be healed. I'm going to act like I'm healed. I have already believed that I received my healing, and that is going to be the thing that will manifest. No, you can't determine today I'm going to receive that. You don't have a scripture for that. You don't have a thing that says, well, the Lord said, today I'm going to do that. There's not a chapter verse. He might reveal that to you by the Spirit. If you go to this meeting, you have this person lay hands on you, you'll be healed. Awesome. Take the action and go.
And there's one more thing, some of the in and out people say that you don't have to wait. They say that the faith and patience thing is kind of not pertains to it, because everybody that Jesus prayed for was immediately
And he had the Holy Spirit without limit. That was part of the reason that he was able to do it instantly, it appeared. But even he didn't do it instantly every time. We read about the guy that he had to pray for twice.
True.
It involves the working of miracles too. What is the working of a miracle? It's a process. You've got to take steps. You've got to do things. I hopefully expect that we get to the place where we see more and more instant things. just because God wants to show off. But I do not want to suggest to people that, okay, let's get excited about these instant things and forget, okay, God made it available to you, just like you being born again. He made everything available. All you got to do is initiate the process. Okay, Lord, I want to receive you today. Same is true with healing. Lord, I receive my healing now. Now, however that long it takes to manifest, that's a totally different deal. The spirit work takes place immediately. And then faith and patience take you from, I believe that I receive it, until, okay, now it shows up. Now it's manifest. And that's something that you don't have any control over. But you do have control over what you say and do during that period of time. And it says, let patience have its perfect work so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. That's what that means. The time between I prayed it, I actually have it in my hands, patience is at work, and the degree to which I develop my patience is the degree to which I am perfect in a lot of my areas, because I don't get bent out of shape. I don't get rattled. I don't get disturbed when it takes a week or when it takes a month or when it takes a year. Yeah.
Something I heard, I hope this pertains to what we're talking about, is you can initiate the healing, the faith of the healing, but like you said, when you wait for it to manifest, I've been hearing the word about God's timing, and when it does manifest, this to happen at that time for a specific reason. God wants to,
Right.
and it'll be perfect every time.
Right.
And you know, that's something that I heard recently that was just very profound. I thought that's awesome because it is right. I mean, I would love to have the immediate healing, you know, really, you know. But the patience and the payoff at the end is well worth waiting for. Because, you know, as imperfect as my patient is sometimes, I know that when it does manifest itself, it is at that perfect time for whatever reason. And usually it's for something that you can share with someone that's going to benefit from it. Not only you, but you know, whoever you share that with will also be impacted.
Word of faith people have a bad habit, I guess, of, okay, I'm going to go into this faith project, healing, blessing, paying off my bills, whatever, faith project, lump it all in the same category. I'm going to go into this and I'm going to expect it to take a while. So I'm going to get my faith prepared and I'm starting this long, arduous journey. Well, it's good that you have that possibility in your mind. It's not good that you expect it to take long. Do you see the difference there? Okay, I'm going into this and I am willing to stand for however long it takes, but I expect that it will happen soon, that it will happen quickly, that I'm not going to have to wait for how long. But if I do have to wait that long, I'm prepared to do it. So there's a balance on both sides of that thing. Some people want it now, and if they don't get it now, well, I'm not prepared. I'm not at all going to wait through this whole process. Well, you're missing the point. You're saying, okay, God, you got to do this now, or I'm not going to trust you. I'm not going to walk this out. I'm not going to see this thing through. And then the other part of it is, well, if I can't be guaranteed that I'm healed now, why even bother? And we have errors on both sides. Does that make sense? Okay. There is a line that you don't want to cross where angels are concerned. Believe in the ministry of angels. Be open to the ministry of angels. Understand, however, that you can live your whole life and never see one, and that not say anything negative about how spiritual you were or weren't. So we're talking about angels, and we want to encourage the ministry of angels, but don't go off seeking one, because you could never see one, and that says absolutely nothing about how good you are or how good you're not. You do not want to start praying to see one. You do not want to start praying to or worshiping one. Let's talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll get back to our story. 2 Corinthians 11, 12 through 15. I'm not changing my position on this. I'll die before taking your money. I'm giving nobody grounds for lumping me in with those money-grubbing preachers, vaunting themselves as something special. They're a sorry bunch. Pseudo-apostles, lying preachers, crooked workers, posing as Christ's agents, but sham to the core. This is blunt. I mean, I like the message sometimes when it just kind of slaps you in the face. I love that. That's awesome. And no wonder. Why do they do this? Why does this not surprise Paul that some people do this? Satan does it all the time, dressing up as a beautiful angel of light. So it shouldn't surprise us when his servants masquerade as servants of God, but they're not getting by with anything. They'll pay for it in the end. So if Satan masquerades as an angel of light, he doesn't become an angel of light, he just tries to make himself look like one. Why would he do that? Deceive. Most of us are prepared to deal with the devil if he shows up in a red suit and a pitchfork. I would be willing to bet you that 99 times out of 100, if not 100 out of 100, he will not show up to you in a red suit with a pitchfork. How will he show up? As something that you are tempted with, as something that you don't recognize as being him. So does he have the capability of masquerading as a true angel to deliver a false message? Especially if you're out seeking one. Oh God, show me an angel. Oh, show me an angel. Oh, show me this. Show me this. Let me encounter one. Let me see one. He'll oblige you. He will make sure that some of those things come to pass in your life just to get you confused, just to get you deceived when you don't check whatever he said and whatever he did against the word to confirm that it's legitimate, to confirm that God actually sent this and this is not Satan as an angel of light masquerading. Okay, Colossians 2:18 and 19. Colossians 2:18 and 19. Some people enjoy acting as if they are humble and love to worship angels. They always talk about the visions they've seen. Don't listen to them when they say you're wrong because you don't do these things. It's so foolish for them to feel such pride because it's all based on their own human ideas. They don't keep themselves under the control of the head. Christ is the head, and the whole body depends on him. Because of Christ, all the parts of the body care for each other and help each other. So the body is made stronger and held together as God causes it to grow. Yes. I was going to have to anyway. It seems like there's like a quadruple negative here or something. Don't let them who do this think that you're bad. It gets nasty. I need to go over on the other slide to get the note on this, and then I'll come back to you. Hang on just a second. The bad people act like they're humble. They love to worship angels, and they constantly talk about the visions they have seen. The good people don't do these things. Don't do what things? They don't act like they're humble. They really are. They don't love to worship angels because we worship God. And they don't constantly talk about the visions that they've seen. Don't listen to the bad people when they say you're wrong for not doing these things. A lot of negatives there. So you got to unpack the whole thing. So I'll go back. Whoops. So the bad people act like they're humble, but they're not. The bad people love to worship angels, and the bad people are always talking about all the stuff they've seen. You ever met anybody like that? Good. I'm glad you haven't. I have heard about some people like this. I don't know that I've ever met one. There have been some of them that have components of this, but not necessarily all three of them. So this is saying, don't be like them. And when those bad people tell you you're wrong because you don't do these things, don't believe them. Don't receive them. You keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is be humble instead of acting humble, which is worshiping God and not worshiping angels, and keeping to yourself for a good majority of the time the visions or whatever that you have seen.
Would you consider those people that have a spirit guide helping them, or these people that you're talking about?
That's some of them, yeah. A true prophet, a true apostle, somebody that's spirit-led can have the Holy Spirit guiding them, but that is a far different thing than what those spirit guides that at least that I have heard explained and heard talk about. That's a far different thing than what they're talking about. Anytime you're dealing with the dead, anytime you're dealing with spirits, psychics, seances, tarot cards, any of that junk, you're opening yourself up to a whole mess of things that you probably don't have any interest in. Would Satan know things? When you call the psychic hotline, would he know some things? Well, he's watched your history. So he could inform them about something that's happened in your past. He probably also has a decent idea about your future. He somehow manages to attack the very thing that you're going to be doing against him. And I'm not sure how that works, but I've noticed it to be very true that the area that you struggle the most in is the area in which you do the most damage to his kingdom once you get free from it. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure how he knows, okay, their future is this, unless he just watches very carefully. He's been around a long time. He wasn't born last night. And he's very good at what he does.
He told me he knows what you want as much as God.
And I don't know how that works.
Yeah, we voice things. Yeah, you know.
If he's not omniscient, he doesn't.
Correct. But he has had several thousand years of human history to work off of and observe, okay, if I can get them to do this, then the next step is this. Is that foreknowledge? No, it's human behavior. It's historical stuff. And when you're talking to like the psychic, what's to prevent the principality that's trying to be on your shoulder power? I'm not saying that it's a principality. I'm not getting into the authority structure. Whatever demon is sitting on your shoulder giving you a hard time, what's to prevent that demon from talking to the one that they're listening to on the psychic line? I heard somebody say this one time. Sometimes when you say something negative or bad or harsh to someone else and they like blow off the handle as a result of it, it really had nothing to do with what you just said. It was what you just said in combination with what the person before said and the person before that said and the person before that said. What's going on? That little imp sitting on your shoulder is whispering to all his demon buddies, okay, we've got him frustrated here about this thing, so keep talking about it. Think about that for a moment. It's not just ever a one-time event. It's over and over and over, and it's this pounding thing. And well, 15 people have told me this today. I guess I need to think about it. It still could be a lie. Go.
Well, it's something along the line. I was talking to a patient yesterday that she was saying she had a panic attack. And she's like, because my mom said something very hurtful to me. I was like, and why did that bother you so much? And like, she's like, and when we got down to the root of it, it's the same lie that has been whispered in her ear, you know, again and again. And so whenever someone else like affirmed that, like she just lost it.
Right.
You know? And so yeah, it's like it's very important what we listen to and like to recognize that is not from God and just like shut that down. I was like, at the end of the day, it's what you believe about yourself. If you have a core identity, then it's not that other person's fault. You know,
Right.
It's your own like misconception about yourself.
Misery loves company, and everybody don't want to see you do good.
At the root of it, you're right. It is an individual thing, and you've got to embrace the God identity that he gave you and God truth about those things. Absolutely. But you're at fault if you yield to that imp on your shoulder that's wanting to influence the person in the conversation that you're in now. You're still not helping. You're still not being spirit-led because you're contributing to somebody else's demise. You're reinforcing the recording. Go ahead.
Paul always had an issue with the relations in the Judaism.
Right.
And here in 19 it says, and I'm holding to you. And that's what he said, not recognizing Jesus as the head of the church and not submitting to his lordship. The rest of this reads kind of confusing, but I think it says from which all the joys and things having nourishment minister.
Correct.
I'm not really sure what Paul was saying, and it together, increase it with the increase of God.
In your body, how are things nourished? The bone marrow produces blood cells that flow through the whole blood network. All of those joints, all those connections, all those channels, all those tubes, all that has to be connected and working properly. So each joint is receiving ministry, is receiving strength, is receiving sources of life from everything else. This said it this way: because of Christ, all the parts of the body care for each other and help each other. The body is made stronger and held together as God causes it to grow. And it's just a matter of figuring out what you're supposed to be doing and do it. If you refuse to do what you're supposed to do, what does that mean? The body is malnourished. The body isn't complete. The body is lacking the thing that you were supposed to be supplying it. We talked once about the passage of in communion, 1 Corinthians 11, about how many are weak and sickly among you because they've not rightly discerned the Lord's body. What is that? One application of that is we don't know who in the body has what gift. If I need ministry for this, somebody should have that. I don't know who they are, so I'm going to stay weak until I figure out who around me has the gift that I need to get out of that situation. How do you solve that problem? Well, small groups is one way to do it. You grow together and you learn, you see, okay, that one has this gift and this one has this gift. And if I've got this issue, I'm going to call them because they always seem to have the right thing to say about that. We don't spend enough time with each other. We don't know each other. We don't hold each other accountable for the fact that you're responsible for providing the thing that you're supposed to be providing. If you're not doing your job, either somebody else has to do it that may not be as gifted to do it, or it doesn't get done and everybody suffers.
Well, you know, we kind of got rid of our relational thing, but this also says for he that eateth and drinketh unworthy,
Right.
eateth and drinketh what measure
Yes.
to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. I'm just not really sure if that discerning the Lord's body doesn't have a little bit to do with recognizing the authority that's in the body, recognizing the place in the body.
I believe that, yeah.
Recognizing the body for what it is.
And then literally it means if you don't take the time to make sure that you're clean, to make sure that there's nothing in you, you're literally taking damnation to yourself. And we rush through communion sometimes. We get through, I want to get through this part of the service, so we don't take the time, and there's usually a song playing. Take the time, examine yourself. There's several different meanings for that passage. One of them is the body parts. One of them is the authority of the body through the body parts, right? One of them is literal. Is there sin in your life? Are you messed up? There's all kinds of different ways to view it, and we should do all of them. And any of them being lacking causes the body to be weaker than it needs to be. Okay, Revelation 22, 8 and 9. And then we'll end this discussion about angels. Revelation 22, 8 and 9. My name is John, and I'm the one who heard and saw these things. Then after I had heard and seen all of this, I knelt down and began to worship at the feet of the angel who had shown it to me. But the angel said, "Don't do that. I am a servant just like you. I am the same as a follower or prophet or anyone else who obeys what is written in this book. God is the one you should worship." Think back to some of the things that John had experienced. John was with Jesus. John was on the mountain of transfiguration, where he appeared with Moses and Elijah and was transfigured and glorified before them for a period of time. John saw the miracles, participated in many of the miracles. John saw Jesus being crucified. He saw him after he was raised from the dead. John saw the Holy Spirit fall on the day of Pentecost. John saw all the different things that the book of Acts, the church in Acts, did, the early church accomplished. He was involved in a lot of those deals. He has seen some stuff. This isn't a novice. He has seen some things. He's experienced some things. And yet, even in the midst of all that experience, what he was seeing and what he was experiencing with this angel prompted him to try to worship that angel. So when we start acknowledging the ministry of angels, when we start seeing the ministry of angels, maybe not seeing them physically, but seeing the results of the ministries of angels, are we going to be tempted to worship as well? I'm going to say probably so. And at that moment, we got to make sure that we don't do it. They're not the ones we worship. They're messengers, they're helpers, they're assistants for God doing what he needs to do on the earth. Ministering spirits sent forth to minister for us on our behalf as heirs of salvation. What if you had been seeking an angel and you had one of these encounters like John? Oh, this is so awesome. You're even more inclined to yield to this worship thing, and that's wrong. That's totally off base. Okay, are we clear about angels a little bit? This wasn't a lesson about angels. I just wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with the idea that this angel's involved in healing, and angels are still involved in healing ministry to a certain extent. And I believe that if we start expecting it to occur and allowing it to occur, that as they walk back and forth in the aisles through services, more and more people will get healed. More and more people will get to experience them, whether they see them or not, get to experience the results of those angels doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, back to man at the pool. John 5:6. When Jesus noticed him lying there helpless, knowing that he'd already been a long time in that condition, he said to him, "Do you want to become well? Are you really in earnest about getting well?" Now think about this. This guy comes to that pool day after day after day after day after day. Why would he do that? Why is he at that pool? Doesn't he have better things to do? It doesn't say that. And the next verse would indicate that I don't know that that's true. I don't know how he got there. But day after day after day after day, he shows up at this pool. Why is he there? To be healed. Perchance today is the day that that angel gets in that water and I get to be in there first. The goal of his mind and the fact that he's doing this day after day after day after day after day tells me, yeah, I do want to be healed. Why did Jesus ask the question? The Passion says it this way. When Jesus saw him lying there, he knew that the man had been crippled for a long time. So Jesus said to him, "Do you truly long to be healed?" Again, why this question? Why else is this guy there?
He's been there so long, and he's in such bad shape that he's never going to be.
That's true.
I didn't show him up there in the place to be healed, but he would never really have a chance to be the person. So he's showing up at a place of healing, and in reality doesn't have a chance to be healed that way.
Okay. Most of the time, the word here for will you means desire. It can mean determined. Do you want to be healed? Have you made up your mind that you want to be healed? Or is this just a pattern that you keep doing because that's what you do each week? We do the same thing. I go to church and I go to this class and I go over here and I go over there just because that's what I do. I'm used to doing it. I'm comfortable doing it. You heard about people in prison that have been in prison for multiple years of their life, and when it comes time for them to be released, they freak out. They don't know at all what's going on outside of their normal rules and boundaries. Or they do something stupid right at the end of their term to stay in. What are they afraid of? They have said all these years, oh, I want to be free. I want to be out. I want to have my life back. Do they really? Or are they so used to and so comfortable with and so familiar with this state of existence, good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent, that they're unwilling to do anything other than that, even when given the opportunity to do so? Does your desire or determination play a part in these things? Now, I want to say this: desire is not equal to faith. You can want something with every fiber of your being and never get into faith about it. What's the difference? Desire is more like hope. It's an expectation. Faith says, I have it now. Faith takes it. Takes the desire, makes the desire real, puts flesh on the desire. You will not pursue something that you don't desire. But just desiring it is not necessarily you approaching it with faith, you taking it by faith. Let's look at that idea just a little bit, and then we'll get out today and we'll finish this up next time. Matthew 5:6. Blessed and fortunate and happy and spiritually prosperous in that state in which the born-again child of God enjoys his favor and salvation are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, uprightness, and right standing with God, for they shall be completely satisfied. What is the requirement to be completely satisfied? Do we do that? Or are we going through the motions? What does our desire dictate? Are we doing what we do because, well, that's what I do? Or are we desiring God to do something in the midst of what we're doing? One more. Jeremiah 29:13. Jeremiah 29:13. When you come looking for me, you'll find me. Yes, when you get serious about finding me and want it more than anything else, I'll make sure you won't be disappointed. Does desire count? Does desire mean something? It's not just something that we can do passively. It's not just something that we can do out of habit. It's not something we can do out of rote. It can't just be a tradition. It's got to be something that's active, that's alive, that's pressing us forward day after day after day after day. So although this guy was at the pool every day, did he really desire to be healed, or was that just what he did every day? I don't know the answer. I'm just asking the question. I could conclude that too. I mean, that would be my assumption, but the Bible doesn't answer the question yet. Could you be saying about your situation, well, this isn't so bad. I can make it with this. I can live with this. Have you been in one of those deals?
Talk about like settling.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes.
I've settled many times and got nothing from it.
And you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again with no different results because you don't really desire different results. You're just happy with the pattern. You're just happy with the repetition, with the comfort that comes from, okay, I know what happens tomorrow. I know what happens at noon. I know what happens at 5 o'clock, over and over and over and over and over again. But you're still accepting, you're still settling, there's no better word for that, for these situations that I find myself in, even in the midst of all the effort that it takes to keep repeating the cycle.
That's what's very refreshing about learning all this, that you don't have to settle for what's in your life. There's a healing that you're going to, you don't have to settle that, oh, this is the way it's going to be.
Right.
It's so awesome that you can initiate that. And still actually surprised that when it happens. You know?
I will say this, if you settle, you're going to keep it. If you're okay with wherever you're at, you're going to keep it that way. It's not going to change. If you can live, if you can tolerate, if you can deal with wherever you're at, it's not going to change. I want us to get into the attitude, get into the expectation, get into the mindset, and we're probably even going to say this: God can do much more than this. Wherever you're at, The areas where you've been successful, the areas where you've been less than successful. Either way, God can still do much more than this. He wants to do much more than this. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that works in you. One of those powers working inside you is your desire for it to change, your desire for it to be different. What steps are you willing to take towards that desire for this thing to be different? God can do much more than this. God wants to do much more than this. Are we expecting him to do much more than this? Or are we okay with where we're at? Jesus walks up to this guy that's there every day, waiting on these waters to be stirred. Do you really want to be healed? I ask you the same question. I ask me the same question. Whatever situation you're facing, you show up at that pool every day. Are you really wanting it to be different? Are you really wanting it to be changed? Or are you just happy with the way it is? God can do much more than this.
My question is, am I supposed to do something extra? Because I know that God can do more than anything, but sometimes, I don't know, I just have a hard time keeping it, because I'm like, okay, so it didn't happen, so maybe I'm supposed to just be right here. And then,
Okay, it didn't happen on your time schedule.
yeah,
It didn't happen with your imposed deadline. It didn't happen in your imposed way. I'm not faulting you. I'm just saying I'm adding all these things to what you just said to let us fully see it. Something extra, I'm going to say no. Anything you try to do, anything you strive to do is you trying to do it. What needs to happen is, okay, God, I'm not happy with where I'm at. How do I change it? What do I need to do differently? Let him tell you what you need to add, what you need to subtract, what you need to change, what you need to alter. Let him be the one that advises you on. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't try to just say, okay, I'm missing, well, so-and-so did it this way, and I'm not doing that. And other person did it this way, and I'm not doing that either. And other person over here did it like this. Don't add all that junk to you. Don't make all that your task list, your responsibility. Instead, okay, God, I am not happy with where I'm at. You can do much more than this. What does that look like for me?
God is very individual for each person. So what might work for her is not going to work for me.
Not necessarily, I mean, it may, but just because it worked for her, it's not going to automatically work for me. What were you saying, Aaron?
Oh, just staying on scripture, you know, he's gonna do abundantly more than you can imagine, but it's capable. So, you know, you just
Then all that you stand.
keep that over your life.
But that according to the power that works in you. So that's where we meant, okay, God, I know you're capable of doing this. What I need to do, what I need to adjust is the amount of power working in me. I'm going to spend more time with you. I'm going to let you speak about this. I'm going to let you address this. I'm going to let you increase the power working in me so that you have more to work with. Does that make sense? Don't beat yourself up about, well, I'm not there. None of us are where we want to be yet. But as long as you hadn't settled, the next thing should happen is, okay, God, I'm going to press into you. I'm going to find my place in you until you give me light about this situation. And then once you give me light, you'll back it up. You'll take care of it. You'll do exactly what you said to do. And his burden is easy. His burden is light. So if you find yourself, well, I just can't do all this stuff, chances are pretty good you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. You're trying to meet everybody else's list of how they got it to work instead of what he's saying to you specifically. And I'm pointing you, but I'm addressing me too. I got things I got to fix. I got things I got to deal with.
yeah.
Some of them I've done a better job on than others. Some of them I haven't done a good job at all. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you know, things that God does here on earth is in cooperation, partnership, a lot of those verses that you all were quoting, according to the part that makes something up, and, I think about like Joshua and how he marched all night, and then he like told his son to stand in place, he had to do his part and God did it. God meant, when he put in his, he put in whatever he had to do, and then he fought and then God threw down hailstones, so like, it's a cooperation between God and man, and I think oftentimes, like, we ask God for a miracle, but God's like, I require something of you too. Like, even in this case, he's like, I need to know if you want it. Like, that's a cooperation on that man's part. Like, you have the faith. Like, whatever it is that God is asking you to do, like, we need to find that out. That's what I was saying. Like, find out what God is requiring you to do. Maybe it may be a change of scenario, change of the words that we're confessing over ourselves, a change of health habits, like whatever it may be.
Not everybody that acts like they want to be healed really wants to be healed. A friend of mine was a pastor, and he went to he was ministering healing, and there was a guy in a wheelchair, and that wheelchair was just, get out of the chair, get out of the chair. Because although the power was there to heal him, then he has to give a disability.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if he has to give up disability, there's no way, he has no income anymore. So he has given up the ability to walk on his own to keep his disability. So although he's in that prayer line, he says he wants that healing.
What he really wants is the discomfort to go away and me still get my check each month. And I'm sorry to have to get that blunt about it, but that's, so many people are there. Well, legally they're trapped because Satan can say, okay, in the court of heaven, look, he doesn't really want to be healed because he's still taking benefit by the fact that he's not healed. So if you really get serious about in that situation, okay, I'm going to be healed. You got to say, okay, I'm done with the disability. I'm done. God will have to provide it some other way. He'll have to do something else. I'm done with that. I am going to walk fully in my healing. There was one of the blind men, we hadn't got to it yet, but one of the blind men where Jesus called him to himself, and the guy had to take off his cloak before he came to Jesus. What was that about? That cloak identified him as a blind man. That cloak put him in a certain place in society. I'm begging. I need to be led around. There are certain things that I need help with, and I am identifying that with this cloak. So if I'm about to approach a new life, a new existence, a future without this thing that's bothering me, I've got to get rid of all that. So I'm going to throw that cloak down, and all those identifications, all those tags, all those memberships, whatever word you'd like to put in there, I'm going to throw all that down, leave it, and go experience a totally new life.